type of person succeeds? And why do so many people fail? Well, there are different personality types, you could say, or different archetypes that we all have. And there are three archetypes of commitment. And so I developed these ideas and modified them from a book by the Aikido master George Leonard called Mastery. It's a small, older book that's incredible, though, and it teaches similar terms. I've modified them a lot, but that is where I got the original idea, so I just want to give him credit for that. And then what I did was the last 10 years, I've been working with groups of super achievers, and a lot of them, almost all of them, are platinum partners in Tony Robbins' exclusive coaching group. And so we keep data every time we bring a new group in. And at the end of it, we analyze the data. And then we have a group of 13 geniuses that are my friends and researchers. And then me and Tony sit down and look at the pattern and say, hey, how can we help these people even more? So my goal has always been to help people that help a lot of people. That way, I have an exponential effect on the world. So that's always what's inspired me. And so that's where this comes from. Now, these three archetypes are not exclusive. You're not just one all the time. You could be what's called a dabbler, someone that's not going to be successful, that, when things get tough, they just kind of find something else to do, or they blame or make up an excuse, right? That's a dabbler. And you could be a dabbler, like I'm a dabbler learning to play guitar because it's just something I goof around with and I stink at it. But I'm not a dabbler when it comes to physical training. I'm not a dabbler when it comes to martial arts. I'm not a dabbler in certain things when it comes to learning or reading research or developing programs. That's not where I'm dabbling. I'm something else. And that's what I want to share with you. And you want to be able to identify this and not get defensive. If you find yourself getting defensive, I can tell you that's the ego trying to protect itself. And we all have that. But as we get to a higher level of self-mastery, we start to look at it as not part of us. It's a behavior. It's a habit we develop, but it's not who we are. And so keep that in mind. But here are the three archetypes of commitment. Number one, as I mentioned before, the dabbler. The dabbler is the type of person that gets excited about stuff. They're driven by how they feel. If they're having fun, if they're good at something, they'll keep doing it. But once it gets challenging or inconvenient, they find a way out. Either they just find something new. They're always chasing the new thing, the novelty, the shiny object, or they just can't keep their focus. They don't have a higher purpose for doing it. It's just kind of like a hobby. And when life gets tough, they just forget about it. And a lot of people do this with exercise, right? Like life gets tough. Exercise not real high. Their health isn't real high on the priority totem pole. And so other things become more important. You have to have it as a priority. And so that's the dabbler. They give up easy. And so, or they get distracted easy, or they're chasing just entertainment because they're driven by how they feel instead of something else, which brings us to the second archetype. This is the committed achiever. Now, the committed achiever is most people in this group. Most of my clients are committed achievers that are evolving to a higher level. The committed achiever, if you think of Carl Jung's archetypes work, one of them was the warrior. The warrior is the one, I will do whatever it takes to get the goal. I will work till my ears bleed. I won't sleep. I'll suffer. And so the committed achiever often believes in order to be worthy of life's rewards, they have to suffer. They have to sacrifice. Because they're not worthy as they are, they have to meet certain conditions. And as a result, they give everything they got, or they don't give anything at all. They're all in or all out. The reason why they'd be all in is because they want the goal and they're driven. In order for me to be happy, I must achieve. And if I don't achieve, then I'm not worthy. That's the underlying subconscious belief. Or they're all out because they don't want to fail. Because if they do something half-heartedly, that's not in alignment with their identity, because their belief is I'm 100% is always the goal. But that's not always effective. So most committed achievers to train will go from the couch to crazy. Let's say they've been sedentary, they've been busy working and achieving things, and they haven't been exercising, and it comes January, what do? Do they just make moderate health goals? Or do they make insane goals? I'm going to completely transform my body in 7 to 14 days. That's what the committed achiever do. And a lot of times they'll do it. But what happens? It's not sustainable. You can't go 100% all the time. Life is evolving. We're always having challenges and obstacles. That's what makes us grow. What we want to do is automate training, automate nutrition. So it supports us and it gives us the energy, the health, the fitness, the vitality, the performance, the longevity to continuously grow and expand and contribute as our highest and best selves. But the committed achiever, I was a committed achiever the majority of my life. I remember the first bodybuilding contest I did. I was 21 years old. I didn't want to do it. I felt like I wasn't good. I was training a Mr. America, and so I was getting a lot of criticism. I was very young, and I felt like I had to prove myself to people. I didn't, for some reason I needed their validation at that stage of my life. And so I was like, I'm going to do a bodybuilding contest really far away. And so I did it in another state, and I went down there. I got a nutritionist. And I did not take a single bite of anything I was not supposed to. I did 100%. I was miserable. I won and I didn't even care. Then I just started eating cookies and donuts for like 6 weeks and I couldn't stop because I went all in and then all out. And it messed with my mind. And I was like, it started giving me a weird relationship with food. And I had to start to look at my client who was Mr. America. He just ate good all the time, but he was like 80% all year round. And he always felt good and he enjoyed the process. And that is the next level, the next archetype of commitment. The devoted and humble student of self-mastery. What does that mean? So a student is open-minded. Humble is very important. A lot of times we think we know something, but we've never challenged, is it always true? So the devoted student of self-mastery is something different. They're a committed achiever that doesn't feel like they need to suffer. They're already worthy of life's rewards. They're now playing it out because they know there are mechanics, there are steps. And so along the way, they are like the committed achievers happy for a moment in time when they realize I win. And then they're like, I need to achieve something else in order to keep this going. And so they dive right back into it, back into the pushing, the suffering a lot of times, right? And so the devoted student of self-mastery is committing, it's commitment in a state of love-based emotion, in states of courage, of determination, of gratitude and appreciation, of joyful presence. That is the committed achiever. That is the devoted student of self-mastery. The committed achiever is often pushing themselves out of fear. So they're like, I got to do this. I got to get this done. If I don't do this, then my life's going to suck and I'm not good enough, right? And they're not saying those exact words, but that's the underlying message that's in the programming, the belief system. The devoted student of self-mastery loves the journey. They know that it's not about doing all these new things and chasing things and being entertained like the dabbler. And they also know that, hey, life is a beautiful thing. We can either enjoy it or we can suffer through it. But it comes down to mastering our emotional states and having a higher vision, a compelling vision, a clear goal, a higher purpose for doing this, not just to achieve to be worthy, but to happily achieve. That's the key. And so the devoted student of self-mastery, I think a great way of thinking of this is thinking in a marriage. So sometimes I remember my neighbors growing up, they were married forever and they argued all the time. I'm like, I can't believe they stay married. This is insane to me. And they were just hating. They're like, but their thing was, I'm committed because I'm here. And so that's all it takes. That was their standard. So they're like, hey, I'm here, so I'm committed. But they weren't, the difference is devotion would be like, hey, I'm here, but I'm here to be my best while I'm here. I'm here to give. I'm here to grow. I'm here to serve. I'm here to create value in the world while I improve myself. That is devotion. Devotion is I'm going to not just be here, but I'm going to show up as my highest and best self. And so I hope you understand those levels, because when you want to succeed at anything, especially with your health and your fitness, you don't need to do a million different things. If you've been listening to my coach cast for a while, you've been a client for mine for a while, you know what the key is. You don't need to do a million different things. You need to do a few things millions of times. And it's not sexy, but that is the essence of self-mastery. In fact, the story I love to tell, because I seen the interview when I was a kid, with my father was with Bruce Lee. And back then, martial artists they stuck to whatever they did. If you did Kung Fu, that was it. If you did karate, that was it. But you didn't learn both. And that's different now with mixed martial arts. But Bruce Lee was the person that shattered that. He learned all different types of techniques, all different types of styles, and created his own mixed martial art. And that created a lot of challenges. So people wanted to fight him to show that their way was the best way and his was not. And so he was being interviewed and they said, hey, there's this guy who knows 10,000 different kicks. Are you afraid of him? And Bruce Lee, in his classic presence, stared directly in the camera and then said these words: I do not fear the man who has practiced 10,000 different kicks. I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. That is the essence of self-mastery, my friend. It's doing the little things, the small daily habits, consistently and relentlessly, and looking where you are and making small adjustments so that you can be consistent and relentless. Those small daily actions stack up, they add up, they compound, and they lead to massive results over time. Now, the committed achiever would say, in 90 days, I'm going to completely transform my body. And you can do that. It's hard, but can you sustain it? Like after I did that, I had so much challenges. That was my job. That was my profession too. Other people have all these other things going on. So imagine how much more challenging that would be. And so we don't want to dabble, obviously. You can dabble in other things, but with your health, you should never dabble and you should never delegate it. You should have a coach that will give you the blueprint that will get you there. So you're not having to learn all these things and sift through all the misinformation in the world. So you have the treasure map, and that will remind you of who you really are, because all you need is within you now, my friend. And so the committed achiever, we want to let go of. We want to upgrade our committed achiever and become who we really are. And that is the devoted and humble student of self-mastery. I hope you found this helpful, my friend. I hope you looked at it and said, hey, I see where I do this in this area of my life, but not in this area of life. I do great here. Acknowledge that, but just go through the different categories of your life. Look at your life from a spiritual perspective, like a love perspective. How much of your life are you lived in love-based emotion? How much of it is in fear? That would be a category, right? Like, are you dabbling in that? Or like, are you trying to get better at that? Are you a committed achiever and you're really hard on yourself sometimes and you just give up sometimes? Or are you devoted and humble and looking at how you can improve that? Then you want to look at your health and fitness, like we talk about here, right? But then you also want to look at your relationships and then how you contribute, like your profession. How do you contribute and give back to the world? You also probably do this with your finances, right? Because there's a lot to learn there. There's strategies that can make your life much easier. And if you neglect them, it can make your life much harder. And then the final category is, what are the things, like, I call this category ACE, like ACE, and it's an acronym for adventure. Like, what new things can I try? Because I want to learn new things. I want to have a brain that works in different ways. And the more new things you learn, the greater neuroplasticity. Your brain has more wiring in it. And then the C is contribution. How can I give? So like every time we do a challenge, we build a house for somebody in need. And so that's something, I don't usually share that, but that's something we've been doing for the last 3 years now. And so that's one of my personal goals. And then I feed all the people in the county I live. And so that's contribution. That really moves me. But before I kind of dabbled, it's just like whenever someone mentioned something, I would always give, but it wasn't like something I dreamed up and said, this is what I want to do. And then the last one is expansion of skills and capabilities. What can I learn? So like, is there something you want to learn to play an instrument? Do you want to learn another language? Do you want to learn about a different culture? Do you want to learn about history? Like, there's something to expanding your skills and capabilities that when you look at yourself, you feel 10 feet tall, because growth is an important part of life. And like the old saying says, is if you aren't growing, you're dying. And it's actually true in a lot of ways. It's a principle of life. If you're not improving, you're getting a little worse. Like when it comes to your health, like each day the sun goes up, so sun goes down. That's called a circadian rhythm. It's a clock, and the body keeps score. And at the end of that day, When it's up, it looked at how much food you had, then it looked at how much activity you did, and it's weighing these things out. So you either got a little fatter or you got a little leaner. But it's so small, we don't notice it day to day. When someone has a big change in weight, like in a day or two, that's going to be water weight. That's not fat or muscle. It doesn't change that quickly. But people freak out because of it. But when you know that, you're empowered, right? You're like, oh, that's just water weight. I probably had too much sodium and not enough potassium, like something very simple, or I didn't drink enough water, whatever it is. But that's how we learn. So that expansion of skills and capabilities is an important part of life. But go through this and say, how am I showing up in these areas of life? And then set a goal. But I always start with the love-based emotional, spiritual aspect and the physical health aspect, because that channels into all other areas of your life. Because when you're looking through the lens of unconditional love towards yourself and towards others, life is different. You're more appreciative, you're more grateful, you're in love-based emotion. From there, you generate energy. Fear-based emotional states or negative emotional states like anger, rage, sadness, depression, like when you experience those, when anyone experiences them, they drain energy. Even if someone else is feeling that and you're around them, you can often feel your energy go down, right? And so you have to be intentional and conscious with these things. All right, my friends, I need to meet with someone that is the big guy, known as the big guy right now. So I got to go. I just realized the time. So I hope you found this useful. And the next one's going to be even better.
You tap into the real you, but you have to retrain yourself. The way you retrain yourself is you wake your ass up in the morning and you say, I am here for a reason and a purpose. And it's bigger than my moods. It's bigger than the difficulties of the day. I am here to live like a lion, not the fear of a lamb.